episode of The F Word is flexibility, and we've got Harriet from Grit Culture, Cornish business working with great people doing cool things internationally. So hi, Harriet.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Can we start with a little bit about your business, what it does, the services you offer, who you work with?
Yeah, so Grit Culture, we've been going for about 8 years now, and it very much started as, it kind of happened without me realising. I suddenly found myself, I had 2 clients, and then I started looking for jobs, and I didn't really want one. So I just started reaching out to people that looked busy and that needed extra help, and that's kind of what I've kept doing. So when people ask me what I do, it's quite hard because we kind of do whatever the business or person needs help with. But it has kind of got a little bit more narrowed down in the sense of like general admin, websites, invoicing, social media, marketing. It's a bit endless. We do some quite random things as well. But yeah, kind of jack of all trades, master of none. There is an ending to that makes it better.
Okay, good. We can touch on that too. And we were talking before we started filming around the term virtual assistant. So that you said that was your first label. Explain a little bit about how that's now moved forward.
Yeah, so I guess when I was reaching out to people initially, and I kind of had to give myself some sort of label for them to know what I was doing. And one of my friends actually said, well, why don't you become a virtual assistant? And I was like, great, okay, cool. That sounds about right. It's broad. And that is the kind of label we held for probably up until the last few years, really. But one of the first things I would always say to people, if you've been an assistant or had an assistant, you know what work goes into being an assistant, and you're the backbone of a business often. But if you're not in those categories, people can be a bit dismissive and think, oh, you're just an assistant and you're just doing diaries and inboxes and etc. So we have naturally moved away from that. That's not because we think any less of that title. It's because what we do has evolved, and we kind of wanted to evolve our label with that. But one of my first and still remaining mentors from my first job in London, even at my job in London, I was always like, what's my job title? And he was like, it doesn't really matter. Depends who you're talking to, depends what you're doing. So I've kind of tried to keep that ethos as well along the way.
That's brilliant. And that's the sort of the whole epiphany of flexibility, really, and how things have evolved. And how do you think the demand for sort of assistant, virtual assistant, online management, however we want to label you, how that's changed over the last few years, and especially with COVID?
Yeah, I think people are a lot more open to it now. Post-COVID, the remote work, like I've been working remotely for 8 years since I started, and actually longer than that when I left my company in London and continued to work for them. But I think post-COVID, everyone appreciates it, whereas they were a bit more scared or cautious of it before. And also there's an expectation of being able to work remotely, or like it's just part of it. So yeah, it changed things for us a little bit, in the sense that people were more open-minded and they were just like, yeah, that's fine. Whereas we'd have to kind of justify it before, but it's never really been a stumbling block for us.
And that flexibility has seen you live and work all over the world?
Yeah, so when I left my job in London over 10 years ago, it was because I was moving to Australia. So, and I continued to work for them remotely in Australia, as well as having full-time jobs. And then I moved from Australia to New Zealand, and that's where I actually started Grit Culture. And yeah, worked in New Zealand for 2 years and then moved back to the UK. And my team are all over the world as well. So we're all very flexible, yeah.
And how do you manage different time zones? So ensuring consistent support and that kind of morale within your team?
Yeah, I think when I first moved back from New Zealand, when I was in New Zealand, I had UK clients, and everyone was just, if you're open and honest about it up front and you communication is just key. And often a lot of people liked the fact that they would go to sleep and wake up and things were done. So it would work really, really well. And since being back in the UK, I would say probably the majority of our clients are now based in the UK, but we do have clients in America and Australia that dip in and out as well. And I just don't think it's a problem if the communication is there. It's not for everyone, and some people do want people on demand more, but a lot of what we do is more flexible, and they're not paying to have someone 24/7. Although a lot of the time we are there, the majority of the time.
I quite like the idea of running your business, going to sleep, waking up, and all of those tasks have been done for you.
Yeah, it's great. It's a different way of looking at it.
And you start with kind of clean slate in the morning. What sort of tools, technologies, tips do you use in order to be able to have that seamless kind of service?
Again, I think it's hard to kind of like have a list of systems that we use, because we try and go into people's businesses and see what they're using and kind of adapt for their business, rather than saying we use this, you change, we change. But a good old spreadsheet, can't go wrong with Google Sheets.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the first thing we do with a client. We set up a Google Sheet. We have a sharing document, so that if one of the team or I need to jump in, we've got a one-stop shop of that's where all the information is. But yeah, we just adapt depending what they need. But we do, that is part of what we do as well, is just assessing and doing a little bit of an audit on them to see whether their processes and systems are right, really, or best.
So that's sort of another level of flexibility, really. So it's not just around the time or the location, it's actually how you do the work and work with each individual client also.
Well, I think a lot of the people that we work with, we're the first people that they were working with outside of themselves. It's their baby, it's their business. It's quite scary for them to have somebody else. So it's kind of like how we draw that out of them, the task and everything, and like taking that off their to-do list, which is often the hard part of it all.
Yeah, definitely. So what qualities do you look for when you're expanding your team? You talked about you've got a team all over the world that are kind of working in different areas of your business. So yeah, tell us a bit about them and how you get them into the Grit family.
Well, I would say I grew my team very quickly. I was, maybe it was a bit of an ego thing. I had a lot of people contacting me. I want to work for Grit. It looks amazing what you're doing. And I just said yes to everyone. And yes, it was great. But actually, I'd built the reputation that I had with Grit culture myself. And I kind of lost a little bit of that control. So I've reined it back in now. And we've got a team of, there's 6 of us currently. And you just get a feel for someone, I think, in that first couple of conversations. A couple of the team are connected in random ways. One of the girls that's based out in Lisbon, we've known each other for 15, 16 years, and our lives just aligned, and it was the right kind of time for both of us to work together. Other people as sisters of friends, but I do think you just get a feel for them. I think the main thing is a good work ethic, attention to detail. I think often people think, oh, you're working remotely, you can do what you want, you can doss around, and you've got to have a stronger work ethic working remotely. And like I said, I've built this reputation. I need people that do the same. But I think attention to detail, communication, everything we do is based on communication, trust and honesty. So it's just the feel, I think, a lot of it.
That's some strong core values, definitely.
Yeah, and it's something I've never really sat down and thought about, like my mission or values or anything, but everything does come back to the fact that we work with good people doing cool things, and it's based on good communication, trust and honesty. And I always just want it to be fair for everyone, the team, the business and the clients.
Perfect. And just going back to what you said about one of your team members who's based in Lisbon, I understand that you recently got the team together for a workcation, kind of so to speak.
Yeah, it was. I'm still kind of pinching myself that it actually happened. Like when I was in Lisbon, I was like, this is mad. But yeah, 2 of the team are out in Lisbon all the time. They're actually from New Zealand and they live in Lisbon. I've got another girl, Aurelia. She's from Devon and she lives in Copenhagen. There's Steph that's in Cornwall now, and Karen up in the Cotswolds. Unfortunately, Karen couldn't come, but all of the others, we went out to Lisbon for a week, and we just had a really cool Airbnb. And we had a team day on one of the days, but a lot of it was just about working together. Because although remote working is great, you can't beat the in-person connections and like time together. And it's like silly little conversations that of like, oh, do you know how to do like Control Alt Delete? Like, you know, like just like weird shortcuts, and like, have you done this on a Google Sheet before? And so it was really good, really nice. Yeah, a massive pinch me moment actually.
I've seen lots of other businesses that have been kind of trialing this and really pushing the boundaries of flexibility and working remotely to the limits in terms of, actually, if we can do this in our office based in Cornwall, for example, why can't we do this in an Airbnb? Somewhere else. So it's really great to hear positive stories of that happening. Have there been any challenges around having a team that's so spread out in terms of like where they are demographically, but also where they might be in their lives and how they want this to work for them?
Yeah, I think it's a funny one. When I first started thinking like, oh, I need extra help, I was thinking that, okay, it might be like mums that are coming back after maternity that want a little bit of flexibility, a couple of hours a week. And actually, my team is, I've got 2 that are pregnant, 1 that's a mum, boy Sam, he's not 30 yet, very career driven. And actually they're all really career driven people. And it's like, it's not the person that I thought it was going to be, but it's offering them a career. Like, I think Richard Branson said, like, success is defined by when you can offer someone a career. And I didn't think that I was going to be in that position, but actually it's turning out to be that, because of how we're shaping the business now, moving from virtual assistants and like creating different skill sets for, Chelsea loves social media. So she's becoming the social media girl. It's like, it's using their skills and giving them a way to know that there's progression there available as well.
Does it feel a bit surreal saying all of this out loud?
Yeah, it's mad.
Talking about your business.
Yeah. I feel like massive imposter syndrome right now. Yeah, it's mad. Yeah.
So it's really putting your words into actions and actually proving that flexibility can be massive.
Yeah, it really works. And I mean, I'm not of the opinion, you see them all over Instagram, like make £10,000 in a day and don't do anything. I'm like all about good work ethic and working hard, like hence why grit culture. It's kind of the balance of like working hard, but also the importance of community and having a good work environment. But yeah, the 9 to 5, I don't care when my team work. If they want to get up at 5 a.m. and work or work at 11 o'clock at night, I don't care. As long as they're communicating that with their client and the work gets done and everyone's happy, it works for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And it's really inspiring to hear you talk about it because, as you know, it's something that we are big in terms of actually, I hate the phrase work-life balance. I think that it's just like vom.
Yeah.
But it should be about you can do both.
Yeah.
And you can actually, then I think you really enjoy your work because you're giving it the time it needs when that time suits you. So
we were just having this conversation actually in our team WhatsApp group last week because Aurelia's just had a little holiday and she came back and she was like, I'm so excited to get back to work. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, and I think sometimes I have to stop myself personally and think of like, I don't have any Sunday night blues. I haven't had Sunday night blues for 10 years and it's crazy. Like, but you have to appreciate those little wins because often when you're like in the thick of it and you're like, oh God, I could go and get a job and it's like, doesn't have any of this stress. But then you're like, well, I never dread going to work. I never like dread any of this. And it's about, like you said, creating every day that you enjoy rather than Monday to Friday and live for the weekend as well.
Yeah, exactly. And challenging is good. It's good to feel a bit of pressure. Yeah. It's good to think, oh God, okay, this is really going to stretch my ability or the belief I have in myself. Yeah. But the sense of reward the other side. So actually it's not like a normal challenge, sort of everyday job. It's things that and when you can see the impact that you have on members of your team or your clients, then you really sort of see that reward.
Yeah, but I have to make a point to think about that, I guess, more as well, because you can keep going and going and you don't realise. And I think having Lisbon, a trip, made me do that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's made me think watching your Lisbon trip as well. So future trends and advice for any sort of businesses that might be listening to this thinking about flexibility and how that might look in their own business. What trends do you see emerging in virtual sort of business management space or just in business and flexibility generally?
I think, fortunately and unfortunately, there's a bit of more of an expectation or an entitlement of it now. It doesn't work for everyone. There's some businesses and some people it's not going to work for. So it's kind of adapting to fit the needs of the business and the person. Like I said, I think it should always work for everyone. If you look after your team, the business kind of looks after itself. So it's figuring out how that can look in different ways. It's a tricky one because everyone's so different. I think you've just got to make it work for everyone.
Yeah, and I think it's quite individual to each business.
Yeah.
You see a lot of news reports talking about how some large corporations are asking employees to come back into the workplace because they've lost that sense of collaboration and they're not feeling that the ideas are being shared around, as you alluded to. And other businesses that have just completely said, no, we won't ever go back to an office.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I had my time in London working in an office. It gave me a level of professionalism. It taught me to like hard graft. Like I would leave the house at like 5-6 in the morning, go to the gym, work a day, leave, like get there in the dark, leave in the dark, get home at 7-8 o'clock. And I'm glad I had that time. It's like really instilled a good work ethic into me. And it makes me feel very old saying this, but I do feel sorry, or like I do feel like everyone needs that time in their life. And, you know, the younger 20-year-olds that just go straight to remote work and haven't had that office grind, you're gonna lack something later in life that you potentially can't have. So I think it's really important to do it. But yeah, it's thinking outside the box of how it can work and whether it's right for you. Also, in terms of like how it can work, I just think it's about having the right people in your company that care about it. I often have to say to my team, you can't care more than the client, because they do, which is great because I do. And that's their right to be in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's a good sort of benchmark of whether grit is their place.
Yeah, totally.
So you kind of covered off what I was going to ask you next about the future of remote work. And as we alluded to, it is changing, and that landscape is changing all of the time. And as you said about entitlement and people wanting it, and you're even seeing it on job ads now where it's specified if it's virtual working, remote working, flexi working. There's so many different combinations of ways that you can carry out your working week, which is amazing to see, because in this day and age, you'd like to think that some of those technical savings that we're having on time and productivity are passed on to the employees and the team members rather than being kept for the business owners. But what steps can a business take to improve their flexibility? What sort of things would you advise them to start thinking about if they want to move away from a fixed workplace or a 9-to-5 sort of schedule?
I always encourage my team. It's something I do personally. I calendar block, so I know when I'm going to do things. So I have a calls day, and I think that's important, because then people know that they can like head down, get on, get stuck in. It's not. I'm not speaking to anyone today on the phone, because you just get out of the like gist of working. Another thing that we do at Grit Culture is we have a WhatsApp group for the team. So it's just chit chat. It's not like one of those annoying WhatsApp groups that's going on all the time, but it's like, oh God, I don't know what to do with this. Has anyone dealt with this before? Like you would in an office, small chat, informal. It's not on email. We also, on a Friday, I just thought I'd try this, and I didn't know the impact of it, but we do a Friday win. So we do personal wins from the week and a work win from the week. And it's actually so nice, because it's a nice way to share what you've done, and also for others to know what you're up to, or what like is going on in your work. But it's also a nice way for you to reflect on what you've done that week as well, because often I have to look back at my calendar and I'm like, what even happened this week? So it's just little things like that to improve the culture that you might miss in the office. But yeah, it's just communication, task lists, everything like that should be happening anyway, I guess, whether you were in the office or not. But it's just making more of a point and a focus of those. Like, what are you going to lose from not being in the office? The social, massive. How can we do that outside?
Yeah, and discipline, and as you said, communication and all of those things. So if for any of our kind of clients that are maybe just them or them and one other person as they grow, it's being able to keep that collaboration going, like as you grow.
Exactly. And I guess that's what we do. We offer, when we start working with clients, the client is just happy to have someone else to bounce ideas around, have that accountability, flexibility, but you're not paying for a full-time person. some of our clients work with more than one of the Grit Culture team. So they'll work with Chelsea on social, someone else on admin, someone else on contracts, like completely different. So they're getting 3 for the price of 1. But yeah, it's just gives them real flexibility.
We have a WhatsApp group too. And again, there's a lot of, can someone get milk in the way? And,
Exactly.
and silly like memes and stuff. But
it's nice.
It does help you feel connected when you're not necessarily in a room with somebody all the time. And you just want to be able to share things.
Yeah.
So just to kind of round off and hopefully tie it all up is around personal insights and experiences. So what's been the most rewarding aspect of running your business so far?
I think I've probably touched on this before, that I've heard of so many definitions of success and everything like this, but I do think being able to give someone a job, and I always thought it would be a few hours here and there that I would just give someone, pocket money, and that's nice to have. But actually, I am able to give, it's even hard to say, but I am able to give someone quite a good career that offers them flexibility, upskilling. And especially 2 of my team, I've seen the change in their confidence when they first started to now. Their confidence has grown so much. I think it's a bit of the essence of what we do, jack of all trades. Often we are doing things that we've never done before because the client they haven't done it before, and we have to try and figure it out, and it's very much the basis of what we do. But to see their confidence grow and them to be like, no, I know how to do this, or advise the clients to do it a different way it's really rewarding to see that that's happened and that we've done it remotely.
And it's lovely that when you talk about your personal biggest success is actually a reflection of the team rather than yourself. But I think it's clear that you really do have flexibility running through all aspects of your business, and you should be extremely proud of what you're creating.
Thank you.
Look at us, all professional and grown up. Well, thank you, Harriet, so much. We will be tagging you in all the socials on this, so people that want to find out a little bit more about your team and the journey you've been on, they can kind of get in touch. And thank you for coming on today's episode of The F Word.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Very honoured.